Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scicomm Monday. I'm your host, Nicole Wood. We're excited to be back with our fall series of broadcast. So if you are new to Scicomm Monday and new to the format, what we try to do is make this as engaging a platform as possible. So if you've got any questions for myself or for today's guest, submit them through the chat module here on Periscope. If you're watching this on replay, then please send your questions in via our various Twitter handles. And so you can reach me at Nicole Wood at Wildlife BioGal on Twitter, also the Scicomm Monday handle. And then you can reach today's guest, Erin Winick. Her Twitter handle is nice and simple at Erin Winick. So with that, I'd like to bring on today's guest, and we're going to just have a good old time talking about a lot of amazing Scicomm initiatives that she started. So Erin, welcome to the broadcast. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell everyone a little bit of your background of where you come from with things and what you've been doing before you got to where you are now in the Scicomm world.
Absolutely. So I graduated my mechanical engineering degree from the University of Florida. And while I was in college, I had 4 engineering internships. I worked at a civil engineering firm. I worked at solar turbines and another engineering firm doing manufacturing engineering, John Deere, doing stuff with lots of different tractors outside. And then I worked at Keysight Technologies, which made electronic testing equipment, doing a lot of different mechanical engineering stuff. But throughout all that, I found out I had a big passion for science communication, whether it was writing more technical science documents with engineering stuff or working with kids through the Society of Women Engineers. So while I was in college, I started my company Sci-Chic, which makes science and engineering inspired jewelry using 3D printing, and then pairing that with educational materials, working with both kids and making metal jewelry for adults. And now that I graduated, I decided I really wanted to pursue Scicomm even more full-time. I've been doing freelance writing for about 3 years now. But this summer, I am working at The Economist over in London, so hi from London. And I've been working for the science and technology section, writing on everything from space to gene editing to the more engineering topics that I'm familiar with. So this is actually my last week here. I've been here for about 3 months now, and I've gotten amazing experience working with science journalism and science communication, which is very different from what I've been doing before, working at places like engineering.com or kids science magazines. So a lot of different areas, and I'm happy to talk about anything from sci-art to science journalism.
So yeah, what got you really started with the 3D printing? Like, did you see something along those lines, as you're going through your undergrad, or was it just something you saw somewhere else? Like, what kind of inspired you to start that?
Yeah, so I always loved making things growing up. And when I came across 3D printing, it was something that I felt like I wish I had had when I was a kid. My first exposure to it was in one of my freshman year engineering classes. It was a 3D design class. So I learned how to use SolidWorks, and I made my first 3D printed item there. And throughout the rest of my time in my engineering degree, I worked with different types of manufacturing in my internships, as well as in my classes. And I used it in outreach through the Society of Women Engineers, how a lot of girls and kids responded to this technology. I just wanted to find a way to try to scale that and show it to people on a little bit larger level.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit more, like, what is 3D printing for everyone who might not know? Like, I'm throwing up some of the images that you sent me of the 3D printer that you use. So can you tell us a little bit more? Because I know a little bit about it, but I'm by no means an expert when it comes to 3D printing.
Absolutely. On a basic level, it takes a material and melts it down, for the most common ones, the ones you find on desktop printers, and lays it down in the pattern that you design on the computer. So it often will be a very, very thin layers, like 0.2 millimeters, and little by little, it'll build up the shape that you design on your computer and that you want to create in a physical form. So it's basically a really great prototyping tool, so you can test out anything you've been designing on your computer. Or for me, I can also use it to make a final product. So I can even 3D print metal items in addition to the plastics you might be more familiar with on the desktop printer. So for example, I have this is a piece of 3D printed steel here that I made into the shape of a dragonfly wing. Wow. So it goes through a process of laying down powder that it can then fire in a kiln and make that solid final piece. So it's very similar to if you're familiar with a cast piece of metal in its final material properties.
Nice, yeah, and it's really interesting all the different designs that you can get out of it. You find that it's easier using a 3D printer to make the designs that you want? Like, how much time does it take to come up with, say, one of these pieces from like design to actual like printing?
It's definitely quicker than doing it through traditional manufacturing means, say like injection molding or something where you have to produce a whole ton of something to make it economically viable at all. So, but for me, I can whip something up on my computer really fast if it's a simple design and just automatically test it right away on my 3D printer. So for me, it's a really great way to be able to iterate and figure out what the best option is. And then be able to give it to people and lock different materials and designs to customize their work.
Right. Yeah, like I find it so interesting of how you can just be so creative with this, and it seems like so easy. I mean, that 3D printer that you had, I'll throw the picture back up here for everyone to see, it's surprisingly so small. Like, I just wasn't thinking that it was going to be that small, where you can pretty much just have it in your office right next to your desk and be doing work from right there if you wanted to.
Exactly, and there's all different sizes, but they're often coming down in price, down in size, to really make it for different budgets. And if you want to test it out, the first printer I ever got was a Lulzbot Mini, which is one I recommend to people for starting out because I call it like it's plug and play. You can put it in your computer and it'll work. There's not much tweaking and editing you have to do. Some people like to do that, completely build a printer from scratch. But if you're not someone who's familiar with it, it's one of the easier ones to you just set it next to your computer and go. And the size of the one, this max size it can print is about 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches. So if you can imagine a solid cube of that, that's the biggest size you can make on it. I have a few different printers. Another one up in one of the pictures I gave you is a Flash Forge Creator Pro. So there's a few different types, and it just depends on how specific you need to get on your detail, how big you want to make it. There's a lot of different good guides out there.
So with your 3D printer, like, what kind of skill set do you need to have to be able to make these pieces? Like, what if someone is out there saying, that looks really awesome, I kind of want to do that too? What would you recommend them learning, to be able to create what it is you're creating?
Yeah, if there's someone who wants to learn 3D design, the thing I always recommend everyone trying out first is Tinkercad. It's a free design software that you can get online, and it's cloud-based. It's really great for kids. I've used it to help teach middle schoolers in different outreach classes how to do just basic modeling. Think of it almost as building blocks on the computer. And with that, you can create pieces that you can then 3D print. So that's a really great starter one. If you want to go a little more advanced, there's things like FreeCAD and a lot of other ones that are now open source. And then if you just want to test out printing without designing, there's a ton of awesome models out online, ranging from Thingiverse, where you might be able to download everything from a fidget spinner to a little Darth Vader, or you could get more educational lesson plans that they've now started to upload there as well. And some museums are even scanning in fossils and cool things that you normally wouldn't have been able to have access to, that you can then just print out and look at yourself in your home.
Yeah, that makes me almost kind of want to go get my own so I could make toys for my niece and nephew. They're 7 and 9. It's like I can make custom toys and be like the really cool aunt that, is making things just for them.
Yeah, and if you want to even try out printing before you get a printer, there's a lot of cool services out there like Shapeways, where you can upload your model that you want to order and then they'll mail it to you 3D printed. So if you just wanted to try it out without a lot of pressure of buying a $1,000 machine, there's some really great services like that. Other ones are Sculptio, which is one based in France. And then there's 3D hubs. So people who have their own printers can then upload and say that I have a printer in this area and I'm willing to print items and what their costs are, and then you can print them locally from other people and support local makers and things like that as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. Have you seen the cost of the printers coming down in time? Like, I mean, just like with a lot of technology, usually they start out really super expensive and they've been dropping down. Has it been dropping down like, pretty good, or is it still like really high expensive? Like you said, it was $1,000 for that one printer.
Yeah, they've been coming down for sure. I mean, they used to be the, that same type of printer being, $5,000 and things like that. But I personally, if I'm going to buy a printer right now, usually you want to spend at least $800 to $1,000 to get a decent printer. However, you can go to, say, like Barnes and Noble and pick up one, I think, for $299 now. It'll just be very small and the quality won't be as great. But if you're okay just getting something that's more for, playing around and you're not trying to get, structural integrity out of your pieces, you can definitely get them more around the $300 mark. And then they also have like 3D printing pens and things like that just to play around with.
Okay, so the quality you're talking about is maybe like how long these pieces will last versus, if you got a better one, it might last longer just because that structural integrity is a little bit higher then.
Yeah, and the finer detail. So if you wanted to have a piece that had lots of different cool patterns and shapes with it, you would want it to be able to print at a thinner layer height, where if you were doing something that wasn't as precise, you wouldn't be able to get those same precise shapes out of it.
Wow, there's a lot to it that you don't necessarily think of until you're actually going through and doing the process of making all those pieces. So
exactly, but it's a lot of fun to play around with.
Right. No, I could see like it'd be a fun way to be creative with everything while still having your fun, STEM sort of, engineering fun with it. So I always like it when I can mix, my science and my, artistic side of things. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with like the different pieces and stuff, you've got this whole Science Chic platform for creating all of this. Where can people go to get this? Is it something that they can just order online, or is it, what's the easiest way for everyone to find Science Chic?
Yeah, so you can go to scichic.com, so SCICHIC.com, or also on Twitter at SciChicNews if you just wanted to check out some of our stuff. And Instagram is actually our biggest social media, which is at Sci_Chic. We have about 4,000 people there, and we love just talking science fashion too and seeing other really cool community of people that are using science fashion to be able to communicate their work and spark everyday conversations about it through clothing and through jewelry, shoes, nail art, awesome stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I find it interesting that you say Instagram is your biggest platform. I'm always interested to hear what platforms work best for people. And I mean, have you found with other companies like similar to your 3D printing company that it's, that they do well on Instagram, or has it just been you that's been doing really well on Instagram with that particular set of, jewelry and everything?
It's definitely other companies similar to me as well, just because people that do sci art, it's such a visual medium, and Instagram is just so compatible with that. Being able to do behind the scenes videos as well as post pictures of the different pieces of science that inspire our jewelry, people wearing it. So it's just great to be able to visually share all of that and engage with other brands and other people that are really into the same thing that we are. I think that also Instagram has been a great way for us to find people that aren't necessarily scientists. Where on Twitter, it's been really great to interact with people who already love science. But Instagram is just, it lets us venture out a little bit more into the people who might like fashion, and then because they like that, they might like our piece and then learn about science because of that. So it's been an interesting bridge between all those different, the beauty blogger world and the style people and the science area.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I've kind of heard, a few other similar tales to that of where Instagram does seem to be more that generalized audience. It's not, you're not only hitting that science community, you're hitting other communities as well and able to get them attracted to what it is that you're putting out. Because I'm on Instagram as well. I don't have 4,000 followers on Instagram, but it's interesting to see the people that interact with the imagery that I'm putting up. It's still all science-based, but it's interesting to see who all comes in versus I would probably never see them on Twitter. So
yeah, definitely. And I see that on my personal one as well, which, I share more of what I'm doing for science writing in addition to, 3D printing. And I think that I definitely have a little bit more of the science community on my personal one. So I think that having the brand that's a little more focused on just, purely on style and science, it's been a better bridge than just, sharing my personal science communication career, which I think attracts more scientists and journalists.
So for everyone out there right now, we're currently talking with Erin Winick. She's broadcasting in from London, which is great that you're able to stay up late enough for us tonight to do that. But if you have any questions about anything that she does with her 3D STEM printing jewelry with the Science Chic company that she runs to any of her other science communication stuff, please feel free to send any questions and we'll do our best to get them answered. So with that, like, let's kind of like jump over to some of the other Scicomm stuff that you do. So you're currently in London, as we said, and you're there interning with The Economist. So can you first of all tell us what The Economist is, and then how you got over there? Like, what drew you there?
Sure. Yeah, so here I have this past week's issue here. So The Economist is like actually a magazine. So it's a weekly magazine that comes out. So it's not like a daily newspaper. We have once a week. It's an international paper that comes out, and it's not just focused on science. It has politics from around the world. It has obviously a lot about business and economics and finance, and then it has a science and technology section, which is primarily what I'm writing for. It's based in London, and it's been around for a very long time, since 1843. So they're very established and have a very set cycle that it's been really cool to be a part of and kind of see what the publishing cycle is on the weekly basis, just from before having only done freelance, now moving into this, very set publishing environment. It's been definitely a transition. So for me, I write for the weekly publication as well as online. I've done some stuff for social media, editing video scripts. Got to write for their Medium blog. They also have a daily app that they publish short, like 150-word snippets about what's coming up that day that I've gotten to write short pieces for. So a wide variety of stuff. And in addition to just writing for the science section, I've also gotten to write sort of technology spinned business pieces, which has been very cool to be able to kind of bridge over into those other areas that normally if you're just pitching stories as a freelancer, you might not have the opportunity to do. And while I've been here, I've gotten to write on Kepler and planet discoveries, gotten to write on robotics on the manufacturing floor, sewing automation, and we get to pitch our stories each week. So I get to pitch the things that interest me most, the cool new journal articles that are going to be coming out in the next week. And yeah, it's been really awesome. I actually got to work for The Economist originally just based on an online application that I found through a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and I just sent it in, and I got picked to be one of the finalists to go in and interview. And it's not often that online applications are the way things happen, but I'm excited that it worked out. And after going through the whole process, I started here in June, and it was just an opportunity that I couldn't miss. It was my first time over here in London, and like I said, I got this my last week, so hopefully I get a few more articles in the magazine before I leave.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point of seeing different opportunities through, like you said, through Facebook. Like I keep seeing on Twitter and other platforms, everyone posting up different job opportunities and stuff. So it really seems to be becoming more of a common way of people being able to find different job opportunities. It's not just your traditional formats of finding, you go look in the newspaper, you see the flyer up, on your school board, or, those traditional even job boards. There's they're really using social media to produce, or to put out different job opportunities for people. And it seems to be working. I mean, it got you that internship, so.
Yeah, and I always follow on Twitter the hashtag Scicomm job and Scicomm jobs. It's a really great place to be able to keep tabs on those that you might not normally come across, because science communication jobs can be anywhere from any university to at Newsweek New York. So it's cool to be able to see the wide breadth of those. And I had actually put together a blog post a few weeks back just because of my experience. It was a little hard to find these internships off the bat. And try to help people kind of compile some of the best ones that I'd come across. And so if you have any extras, feel free to send them my way, because I'm trying to keep that as a running database as I go as well.
Yeah, I know I've just kind of casually looked around for different science-based Scicomm jobs out there, and there doesn't really seem to be any hardcore, or at least that I've come across, solid online job board. So there's for the ecologists, is the big Texas A&M job board for all of the ecology jobs out there. That seems to be the place for everyone to go. Do you know of an actual Scicomm job board that is the place? I mean, you're saying you've got the database there, but is there the big one that everyone goes to that you've heard of?
No, so there's a lot of the organizations for science writers are the ones that would have them. So some of them are local organizations. I think there's one in DC, Science Writers, that has their own, but you have to be a member to be able to access them. So then there's the National Association for Science Writers, but those are great ones to be a part of, just to kind of keep tabs on that. And honestly, sometimes you'll see posts on just general engineering or science job boards as well. So Nature has a long list that they keep running for their publications and things like that. So it's sometimes it's hard to find one that might just be necessarily for all of science communication. But if you're looking for science writing, there's good science writing boards. If you're looking for something that's more ecology focused, there's definitely job boards that are focused on that.
So what's been the most fun article or story that you got to do while you were over there at The Economist, like the one that you enjoyed the most?
I think one of my favorites was the one that was on combining VR and roller coasters. So growing up in Florida, I was always around theme parks, and it was just fun to be able to combine my experience, going to Busch Gardens and Disney and Universal Studios growing up with VR, which was pretty cool just to talk to the people that are both engineers on roller coasters and engineers on VR and how they put them together, because everyone instantly goes, oh, I'm going to throw up when someone says that. And it's actually not the case. They're saying that I can actually minimize nausea, because sometimes if you just have a VR headset and you're sitting down, when you're not moving but your eyes see you're moving, it makes you want to throw up. But then when you're actually moving in conjunction with the VR, it minimizes that nauseous feeling. So SeaWorld was the one I was focusing on in the article, because they just opened their new Kraken Unleashed roller coaster this summer that repurposed one of their old roller coasters and by just adding VR to it. So some of these old rides are being repurposed instead of tearing them down and building new ones. So that was my favorite one to write this summer. Just it was unique, and now I really want to go ride one because I haven't gotten the chance to yet. But
yeah, that's great that you kind of get the behind the scenes information about that. And I know for someone who, when I play video games or things like that, like if I play for long enough and it's really intense, I will kind of get like that just unsettled feeling. So it's interesting though, like if you actually just do that slight movement to it, that it can really, make a world of difference.
Yeah, and it was cool to be able to use a little bit of my engineering background, but then also venture into learning about different areas of science that I might not be an expert in. But that's the cool thing about doing interviews for people like The Economist. You get to learn about so many different areas of science while you're here and just kind of break out of your normal science bubble.
Mm-hmm. So a reminder to everyone out there, we're talking to Erin Winick. She's currently broadcasting in live from London, England. And so we're talking to her about all of her Scicomm or science communication outreach initiatives. So you're there for your last week. What's, the biggest thing that you've really liked about being in London? I know we talked a little bit earlier, you haven't been able to go out and explore so much, but I guess what was like maybe one of the like more interesting things of going to a different country and like that made it like a little bit more exciting than maybe possible like opportunities over here that you found?
Yeah, I had never been to London or Europe at all before I came over here. So probably one of the biggest things was learning how to just live in another country. And it might not seem like it'd be that much of a culture shock going over to England. It still speaks the same language, things like that. But there's definitely still cultural differences. And I mean, I can only imagine that going somewhere else, it would be magnified by such a greater scale. But it was still cool to be in a work environment in another country. I think that, seeing the hours people work, how people handle lunch, and just, the daily cycle and, family life was interesting, because you don't get that when you're, say, a tourist, to really get that dive into what people's lives are really like over there. And so that was a pretty cool experience. And just to talk to people about, what their lives are like over here. Because a lot of people were born and raised here. There's not a ton of transplants. So most of the people that I've talked to that work at The Economist are, from this area. So it was very cool to just kind of see some of those cultural differences throughout my time here.
Yeah, that definitely is a big thing. Like I've done a fair amount of traveling, but it's always interesting when you actually really get to like sit in and like truly get to soak in a culture, that you're not just there for a couple days just seeing like the big sights and everything. You're actually really getting to interact with the people there and truly learn more about that culture that you're in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been really cool, and I've made some friends there now, and I'm definitely going to try to stay in touch.
Well, it gives you a good reason to go back at some point in time too. So
there you go. Yeah, and I definitely am going to keep trying to freelance for The Economist as well, even after I leave, because the science section is pretty good about supporting the interns after they leave, and so definitely going to maintain that connection.
Terrific. Yeah, like that's one of the nice things I like with science communication. And it's great that we can talk via Twitter and other different platforms online, but it's always great when you can make those connections in person. Like I always like going to a conference, and I might have talked to someone through Twitter for over a year, but when you actually get to meet them in person, it really does help that relationship just grow and blossom beyond what it could have just via online.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been cool because I've actually had some friends that I knew on Twitter before I came over here that now I've gotten to meet in person in the UK. So it was really cool to do that. The Science Museum here had a event called Space Nights, Space Lates or something. And so two people from the STEM Squad group, which is a group I'm a part of on Facebook, were both at the event, and I got to meet both of them and see some of their science communication work because they were had some of their university teams that were there, and it was very cool to be able to make that connection. And now going back, having that personal connection, we're going to be even more connected through social media and trying to support what each other do.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I've had people that I knew on Twitter ahead of time, met them at a conference, and then when you're talking on Twitter, you're just that much closer, and you're always going to keep that up versus where sometimes you might let that conversation just kind of slowly die off. But now that you know them in person, it just makes it that much stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't you tell us about like a few other of your, outside of The Economist and your 3D printing, like what other kind of Scicomm have you done that you really, really liked and enjoyed?
Yeah, ranging from, I actually worked with LinkedIn Learning a few months back. So if you might have heard of lynda.com more so than LinkedIn Learning, they do a lot of online learning classes. And LinkedIn recently acquired them, and they've kind of combined, and I got the opportunity to do one SolidWorks, so computer-aided design class with them. So I actually got to fly out to their site and do an on-site recording in a sound booth, actually teaching a full 2-hour course, which was really cool to do that in a really professional setting. It's one thing to, sit at your desk at home and kind of record it on your own screen capture software, but to have a producer that's sitting there and kind of giving you advice on your scripts and what you're going to say on each video, telling you, I think you should go back and reword that. It was a really cool experience. And I'm working on doing a couple more things with them in the future right now. And it was just a really cool way to branch out. It was a little bit more technical, the class I was doing, but it's cool to balance that with, writing, say, for a kids magazine, which is also something I do on a bi-monthly basis. It's a magazine called Beans, BEANZ. So it's kind of kids code and CS. So trying to, relate computer science to kids. So being able to do that at the same time as doing a piping and routing course in SolidWorks, it's cool to be able to balance both of those sides of Scicomm for very different audiences.
Yeah, I always like being able to jump around. I mean, while I'm an ecologist at heart, being able to do things that branch outside of my field of study. Like I work with mute swans in the Great Lakes. To be able to get outside of that is always a real joy, and it I like too because it makes me learn, which is always
fun. And then of course there's doing in-person outreach too, which I do through SciChic as well as I did through the Society of Women Engineers. And one thing that I'm now known for is I have a Miss Frizzle costume that I made that I can wear to events. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to say that we're bringing that picture on here for everyone to see. So.
Yeah, so I love sewing, and I've sewed my Halloween costume since I was a kid. And combining that with science fashion, I had to do a Miss Frizzle costume, which I wore to like comic conventions as well, and won like a costume design award for it. And fun fact, my earrings are 3D printed in that too, of course. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorite ones. And with the new Magic School Bus series coming out, I definitely have my eye on all the new outfits from the new Miss Frizzle because I think a new costume is going to have to be made.
Yeah, I have to say, as someone who was such a big fan of the original Magic School Bus, to be able to hear that it was coming back out, I was kind of hesitant at first because I was like, if they don't have Lily Tomlin doing it again, I just don't know about it. But when I heard it was Kate McKinnon, I was like, okay, we can do this. This is going to be amazing. She's like the one person who can take over for Lily Tomlin, at least in my mind, as that little kid growing up watching that series. So
yeah, and I was also just personally excited that Lin-Manuel Miranda is doing the theme song for it. So that was pretty cool.
I did not know that. That is awesome. Oh.
Yeah, they just recently, if you want to check it out, they just recently released the trailer. Netflix did, so it's pretty cool.
Great. Yeah, it's like I think, what is it coming out? It's later this month, towards the end of the month, that it's actually being released. So
yeah,
there definitely will be some binging of that when it comes out for sure. So.
Yeah, and I watched a marathon of Magic School Bus episodes when I sewed the first outfit, so I'm sure I'm going to be doing that again.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of us, Twitter Scicommers that are going to be just talking about it nonstop, and it'll be fun to see everyone's, new costumes and things that come out based off of that.
Yeah, and maybe we have to organize some new, watch parties online or something. We'll have to see what happens there.
I am definitely game for that because we have done that with other movies with different Scicommers that I know. We've done, Jurassic Park watch, parties and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think we should do that with the new Magic School Bus. So
yeah, that would be fun. An excuse for us all to watch the kids show. So
exactly, yes. And then we could totally, have fun, just tweeting about the science that we see in there too. So which always is great.
Absolutely. Maybe we can find out what episodes are, have different science specialties in there and get some people talking about it.
Yeah, I really like that idea. We'll have to play around that for sure and see how we can get jumping in on this because that's, if I can watch Magic School Bus and, science geek it out, while we're doing it, hey, that's multiple wins right there. So.
Yes, sounds good.
So, as we're running out of time here, I just want to send out to everyone, if you're watching this and we're too shy to get your questions in, or you're watching this on replay, definitely feel free to tweet us your questions afterwards. To Erin, I just want to say, is there any last little bits of Scicomm wiseness that you want to send out to the audience to let them know things? And then also, and then before I let you go too, we also do have to say, you did just get engaged this weekend. Wasn't going to let you get by without saying that either.
Yes, so. I did just get engaged this weekend. So my boyfriend proposed at the Royal Observatory in London. So it was a science-themed engagement at the Prime Meridian. Then we went to a planetarium show afterwards. So the nerdy science love.
Yes, well, definitely congratulations to both of you on that. I mean, that's a perfect way to do it if you've got a scientist in there to totally geek it out and have fun with it. So.
Exactly. And as he said, he gave me a good science story to tell. So
yes, exactly. So, but yeah, any last minute science wisdom to the audience out there, for science communication, what has, the big thing that's worked best for you in your short career here so far?
Yeah, I always tell people if you're considering doing something, just start it. Whether it's a new blog or a new Twitter thing, it just get out and do it. I know there's always so much hesitation and so much planning, and it was a lot to start my company during my junior year of college, but it's been amazing the opportunities I've gotten because of it and the interactions and the influence you can have. No matter who you are at this point, you can have influence. And at whatever level you are, if you're a freshman undergrad, just talk about what you're learning about. Get that audience and just start sharing. I think that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, that's basically what Scicomm Monday was me just saying, let's just make this happen and go with it, and we'll roll with the punches along the way. But I really do like the fact that you're encouraging folks, as soon as they step onto that, college campus, to start right then, because so many times people feel like they aren't experts on anything, are very hesitant to talk about it. I think you really can start developing skills that very first day. And so by the time you graduate, you really do have that basis of science communication that you can take and go with, say if you go to grad school or if you go into the job force right afterwards, you already got that all built up rather than waiting to that senior year or until you go to grad school or beyond to jump into that. So
yeah, exactly. And it helps you reinforce what you're learning as well, because, if you're trying to explain stuff and share it, it can really help you know that, yes, I know this material, whether it's, just a Calculus 1 or, some cool new field course you're doing for 1 credit, whatever it is, you can find someone that wants to listen.
Right, exactly. And it's also a good way to just vent things out too. If you're just having a tough day, to be able to just talk about, this particularly hard class or whatever it is you're going on. And sometimes it can be a really good way of dealing with the stress of college life, because we all know it's not always the most easy thing to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a great community online.
Yeah. So with that, I definitely want to say thank you to Erin for being on. We really appreciate you giving all your insights with running your company and if you want to go ahead and tell everyone again, what's the website that they can go to be able to find all of that?
Yeah, scichic.com, SCICHIC.com.
Right. And then all of your fun opportunities with The Economist. Definitely have a great last week there. And then you said that you're going to go be exploring around England and Great Britain afterwards. So definitely have fun and enjoy all of that, and safe travels back to the States afterwards.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But if you want to be able to get a hold of Erin, after this broadcast, if you're watching it on replay, feel free to tweet her. It's at Erin Winick on Twitter. And then if you want to be able to get a hold of the broadcast or myself, you can either tweet me at Scicomm Monday or at my personal handle of Wildlife BioGal. And then next week, we're going to be having Jillian Morris Break on. She is known as Bimini Shark Girl on Twitter, and she does a lot of really good education, science outreach. She runs Sharks for Kids on Twitter, so make sure you check that out beforehand. That'll be definitely a lot of fun and some cool pictures of sharks coming up for next week. And then we also want to make sure we take some time to thank all of our supporters on Patreon that are helping to fund Scicomm Monday. And then a big thank you to one of our major Patreon sponsors, Jason Leathers. He goes by I for MSU on Twitter. It's really great having a whole range of Patreon sponsors from just that $1 all the way up. It really does make a big difference and help us bring these broadcasts to you. And if you really like the broadcast and you want to help support us, please go out to our Patreon site. It's www.patreon.com/Scicomm Monday, and please come help us out. It really does make a big difference with making sure that we can keep this free, and so that way we don't have to charge anyone for being able to provide this service at all. And then I also need to give a big special shout out to Great Lakes Cisco on Twitter. We ran a little mini contest a couple weeks back while we were on break for anyone to send a fun hashtag Sci Monday tweet in, and they had the most retweets and likes, and we gotta say we can easily see why, because this tweet was just absolutely hilarious. So make sure you check out their work. They're currently at the Corgana conference. If you do a hashtag Corgana 2017, you can see everything that they're doing, and I believe they're actually live broadcasting the talks today. So make sure you go out to Great Lakes Cisco's site and go check those out. It's a lot of really great research that they're showcasing today through Periscope. And beyond that, with everything, we just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you're catching this on replay, definitely feel free to tweet us any questions you have. And we hope that you had a good time. And please go out, explore, do some science, have some fun, and hopefully we'll see you on the next Scicomm Monday.